full speed ahead, full load. Yeah. Temperature's climbing. 300 approaches. Booyah. Look at that. 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Hey you guys, check this out. Not the trailer, something with the truck. You guys saw a few weeks ago, A-Rod from Power Stroke Tech Talk was here, and we installed my Banks pedal monster and this iDash right here. And I really like the iDash. Oh, I forgot, starting the engine with 220,496 miles. There's that check engine light EGR code again. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I really like this iDash. So I ended up getting another iDash because this iDash was consumed mostly with my pedal monster readings. That's the interface that allows me to adjust the pedal monster, which changes my throttle gain. Really cool. Like watch this. Watch the red versus the white. The white is my actual throttle, and then the red is the pedal monster throttle. See that? See how it ramps it up a little bit? Really cool stuff. Anyway, that's not what this is about. I've beaten that horse to death already, so y'all know about that. But I did, like I said, get another one because I took up all the gauge space with just that control. It did leave me room for 3 other gauges, but I wanted more info, so I ended up getting a second iDash, and that gives me boost pressure, and I can look at things in real time like engine coolant temp, volts, RPM, engine speed, anything where there's a PID. Through the ECM, the iDash will read that. And I wanted to have some extra data going on, so I got a second one. With the second one, I also bought this little device that's called an air mouse, and it's basically like an ambient air temperature probe. It gives me ambient air temp, that's straight from the air mouse, that's outside. It gives me dew point, and it also gives me relative humidity. Now in Florida land, I like having a humidity meter. That way I can tell just how wet I'm going to be that day. Here, I'll show you where I mounted that air mouse device. It's down here in a what I consider to be a non-turbulent zone, away from hot things. There it is right there. That's the little probe. I ran that outside. Now, the reason that I ran that is because when I got that other iDash, I also got what's called the 4-channel module, and that allows me to actually connect 4 sensors to that data line and then install those sensors where I see fit on the engine. And I've done that with 2 so far. I've got a turbine outlet pressure, which is not exactly the same as boost. This is the hot air coming out of the compressor. Let's see if I can give it some RPMs. Yeah, it's very accurate. And it gives me the charge air temperature. Now this is before the charge air cooler. Let me pop the hood, I'll show you. Popping the hood. Now there's no performance gain or anything like that out of this. It's just something that I like because I like to tow a lot. And I like to have the extra information. So yeah, there's the 4-channel module right there. I've got that secured to the firewall. This one runs down to that air mouse, and then this one runs inside the cabin up to the gauge cluster. Now, it's kind of a mess. I have not tidied all these wires up yet, but 4-channel meaning I can run 4 different sensors. I've already got 2 of them hooked up. These are temporary. There's no bungs or bosses welded into this yet. Because I'm not going to keep this charge air cooler pipe. I'm going to get an upgraded one. But I stuck these guys in here just to see how they worked out. I believe that's my pressure sensor and that's my temperature probe. Now I've got room for 2 more of those sensors, and what I want to do is put those on the downstream side of the charge air cooler, which means they're going to end up being like inside of this intake horn right here. That way I can get a measurement at the compressor outlet and at the intake manifold. And that will tell me how efficient my charge air cooler is operating. Basically, I wanted to get those gauges and set up this data collection so as I improve, repair, and or possibly modify this truck for more steam, I can get some actual data that shows just how effective those modifications are. For example, I can take that air mouse down there and I can put that in front of and or behind my air filter, and I can collect data on just how much pressure and or vacuum and temperature that's coming into the air intake. Then I could replace my stock air intake with like an upgraded air intake, and then I can take the exact same data measurements and it will tell me just how much of a performance or an improvement an upgraded part can bring as opposed to a factory original component. It's science. It's kind of boring, but I think it's fun. Plus it looks really cool. And again, the cool thing about this is you can add to it. For example, I've got 4 channels of data here, which I'm not using. I'm only using 2 channels. But I can, once I add those 2 other sensors, I can then connect another module and then plumb the sensors for that module into different components. For example, I can have one for exhaust gas temperature. You could have one for transmission temp, but I already have that. Again, you can have one for coolant temp, but we already have that. And I don't have one for rear differential temp. I'm wondering if the Banks differential covers have a bung in them where I can screw in a temperature probe. Because if I can get a rear differential temperature reading, I will definitely set up that extra module, because I would love to have temperatures of the drivetrain. That would just be really cool. So yeah, I've kind of gone down the Gale Banks rabbit hole of data junkie collection, but it's something that I've found interest in, and I like doing it. So I'm going to keep adding to this little system right here as time goes on. Oh, real quick, let's get rid of that EGR code. Check this out. We go to diagnosis and vehicle, check trouble codes. It's checking, scanning. It's like a built-in scan tool, kind of. Come on. There it is. What do we got? P04. Oh, yeah, there it is. P0401, exhaust gas recirculation, flow insufficient. I have a clogged EGR. Yeah, let's just get rid of that right now. Clearing. And survey says, oh, check engine lights off. Yeah, take a look right here. This is the charge air temperature sensor that I installed outside of the compressor. That right there is manifold air temperature. So this can show us just how efficient the intercooling system can be. It also shows how at idle we get some heat sink going on, and the intake manifold is actually hotter than the charge air that's coming out of the compressor. Now watch, I'm gonna give it some throttle. We're gonna throttle it up a little bit. And we're gonna start to see these switch around. Charge air is gonna go up because the turbo is heating up, and manifold temp is gonna go down because all the air flowing through it is cooling off the manifold. See that? Now you'll notice we've got some boost being built outside of the compressor, but the ECM is not calculating any boost at the intake. So I'm actually wondering if my factory sensor is lazy or biased. It does work, but it doesn't work down on this low of a range, or do I feel it's that accurate? And I always seem to find a discrepancy between what I'm measuring at the compressor and what I'm measuring at the intake manifold. Now, theoretically, that number should go down after the charge air has passed through the intercooler, because it's cooling off and it's becoming less dense. And if it's less dense, then it should have less pressure. Error, I should have said it's becoming more dense. But that's also the reason why I want to install another identical sensor at the intake manifold, so I can have both of these measurements, temperature and pressure, stacked on top of each other, one before the intercooler at the compressor, and then one at the actual engine intake manifold. All right, we're headed out of here. Let's go ahead and put this in tow haul mode, because I am towing. I do have the trailer with me. It's not loaded, but it does weigh 4,200 pounds, which is kind of, yeah, I mean, it tows it just fine without tow haul being engaged, but I like the longer shifts with a load. Yeah, see, we're coming up on boost, but notice the discrepancy. 5 pounds at the compressor, but it's only reading 2 pounds at the intake. That seems like it's quite a bit of a difference. What do you guys think? It even does that like at the top of the throttle input or RPM range. I'll show you when we get out on the road. I'll put a load on it and we'll go wide open throttle, and we'll see like, you know, 18, 20, 22 pounds at the compressor, but we're only gonna see like 15 or 16 here at the actual calculated boost gauge. You gonna make it? Yeah, he's gonna make it. Good job, driver. Don't hit my truck. We're on our 4th cycle at this red light. We're gonna need more steam. Please go. Go, go, go. Oh, we're yellow. We're riding now. Move. compressor outlet, 102 at the intake manifold. That's a huge temperature drop. And again, look at the boost pressure, it's 5.4. 6 pounds at the compressor outlet, 3 pounds, 2.6 pounds at the manifold. Give us some throttle here. I know there should be a pressure drop there, but I don't know if that's too much or not. So watch this, we're stopped and we're gonna see the manifold temperature start to rise. Yeah, see that? And then once we throttle up and move on, that manifold temp's gonna fall again. That went up fast, didn't it? Temperature increases at the temperature increases at the compressor outlet because we are compressing the air, so it's making it more dense. That creates heat, and that compressor is also absorbing some heat from the turbine side on the exhaust. So you've got heat transfer into the compressor side. That's warming it up, and it's also warming it up just based on compression. Science. I think we get to go full chooch on this one. Yep. Watch those temps. Look at that. 300 degrees at the compressor outlet. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, and that's just from building pressure. Hey, check this out. This truck has been wrecked and stuck in the ditch for days. I guess they don't want to come and get it, and from what I've seen, the sheriff hasn't even been out to put the little orange sticker on the window, so it can't even be impounded. It just lives there in the ditch.